I am really interested in the gig economy that exists around our country. The working class has virtually disappeared from our cinema. Suddenly you see that within the range of whatever films I've been able to do, the filmmakers who've made that film, not just me, have afforded the working class some dignity. And when you take dignity away from people, they become very dangerous. I'm not the voice of the working class. I don't think I can be. But what I'm interested in is there.
Was there any particular one on set that, made your life a little easier? That, that you felt that this was making your life...
Radhika.
Okay.
Radhika.
Right.
I mean, she was a fantastic co-actor, very sincere. I was also shooting trial. She was also shooting something, not in Bombay, she was shooting something outside. And she would come down and we would be workshopping at 11 in the night. Me, her, Aasmaan and our coach. And basically what it does is that, and we were workshopping on basically very important theatre exercises for chemistry building, interpersonal relation and things like that. Technical stuff, right? But 11 in the night. I have shot the whole day, she shot the whole day. But just her energy would just keep us going, that you still 2 more hours of sincerity is required right now. And even on set, she would go the full mile. Of course, there is a nice and a beautiful presence of a Nasir Saab, a Tabu ma'am. It's quite calming.
Right.
But because me and Radhika were in very close quarters throughout the film.
Of course.
So we eventually ended up becoming great friends.
Right.
And same with Aasmaan. And I've realized when you can sit with your director outside of work without talking about work, you're doing most amount of work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely, he knows how to make a person feel comfortable and make a person feel home. And
Absolutely.
I guess a safe space is what helps anyone thrive a lot more.
And what you take away from films like Kuttey is like, I would like to believe lifelong friendships. That's maybe the biggest payment that you have.
Right, right. So overall, I think you'd say your experience working with, your co-stars or even especially Aasmaan was something that made you feel that, you're in a space where you can really express.
Aasmaan is a collaborator. And that gives me a lot of... I'll tell you an instance. What happens is... So there was this deck of costume, acha ye hai, ye hai, ye hai, ye hai. And then we would have meetings in Aasmaan's office because we were working, and then he would take out time. I would keep pestering him that, I have another meeting with me, I have another meeting with me, I have another meeting with me, I have this, I have this, I have this, whatever. And then we could sit with our costume head, him, his DA, everyone. We could sit and talk about basically the cut of the shirt, the fabric of the shirt, the shoe, the jeans, the cut of the jeans. How does this jeans fall on that shoe? What does that do to the character? Why would a lovely fall in this world of absolutely macho men, why would she fall in love with this man? Let's try and think about that via the costume. And also, I would like to believe that the world of mafia has moved on. You don't see people going around in gold chains and going like, kya bhai paisa de? You wouldn't even know who is taking hafta because they mix.
Yeah.
So these kinds of conversations, were they give you confidence, most importantly.
So it was definitely, the way you're describing it seemed like quite a fun experience on set, the whole process. Any, funny anecdote or story that you'd like to share?
So, first one was, so I had, this is, Kuttey is maybe in terms of the scale of it.
Right.
When I say scale, the money being put in and things like that, the biggest that I have done. So Aasmaan called me and Radhika for the narration. The whole narration happened. And he said, अब गाने सुनेंगे. But then I didn't say anything because मैंने सोचा कि होगा आसमान का प्रोसेस, नरेशन के बाद आप गाने सुनिए, सोचिए, फिर बात करेंगे टाइप चीज़. हमने 4 गाने सुने. वो 4 गाने मैंने कभी नहीं सुने थे. So मैं पूछा, हो गया. तुमने ऐसे आसमान से कान में पूछा, ये गाने मैंने सुने नहीं है, बड़े अच्छे हैं. ये कहाँ, कौन सी फिल्म के? उसने बोला हमारी फिल्म के. मैंने कहा अच्छा. ओ अच्छा 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 अच्छा, सॉरी. गाने तो पहले बन जाते होंगे ना, फिर आप जाते होंगे करने. मैंने कहा अच्छा. मेरे को इतना मूर्ख फील हुआ. मैंने कहा ये कैसी बात है, अरे तो बेसिक थी. बट आई नेवर सीन इट यार. So I was just like, oh, this is how it would happen. Yeah, I was like, oh, आसमान का प्रोसेस होगा, गाने सुनता होगा यार. फिर बोलता होगा बताओ कैसा लगा.
I mean, I guess, फिर ये, I mean, you know, instances like this make the whole, because when you're doing, I mean, I don't know, this is all just assumption, right?
Yeah,
I'm not
go for it,
really,
go for it.
all I've seen is from the outside. But when you're probably working on a subject so intense, when you're working with a plot that has, you know, so much complexity and intensity, even when you're character, when you talk about it, you know, there are killings, there's robbing, there's all of that going on. You know, such instances keep the whole mood light. That, you know, okay, when you're going in your workshops, where you're going in your scene, you have that. And when you're outside, you have this little thing to chuckle about, which probably keeps your head on your shoulders when you're doing something so intense, because
absolutely,
it could probably go into a direction where, you know, it's really affecting you as a person, your character.
Yeah. I mean, when I was doing Trial is about Upar cinema tragedy. It's a real tragedy. I mean, when you're inside, even the set. So we were shooting here in Andheri West in a rundown Navrang cinema. It's closed now, but we were shooting inside, but with the art direction and everything. I'm from Delhi, right? So for my mother, there are two. My mother's and our father's generation, there are two main tragedies that they talk about in Delhi, which is the 84 riots and Upar cinema, right? So you automatically have this, and it if you don't have people that you can like see eye to eye with, it'll become hell.
Right. So I guess I mean I totally concur with what you're saying. The importance of, you know, having the right kind of people around. But you know, just at least when you look at things by yourself, when you're talking about, again, bringing in the same thing that I've been talking about, the intensity of the script, the character and stuff you're doing. Do you have any particular techniques that you use, or like, you know, how do you prepare for a role? How do you approach a character? Like, okay, now Danish is my character. Like, who is Danish? How do you do that?
Each project has to be different, and I have not arrived at one formulaic approach that okay, now this is done.
Right.
A karenge, A, B, C, D, done. Chalo, film. And I think it can never happen also. But there are some things that have like stood out for me, personally. And this I learnt when I was doing Ibaleu, because I was doing the costume sourcing and everything for my character also.
Okay.
I learnt that the process of saying, okay, this fabric, this sweater, this shirt, but not this, and not that, starts to make a mental sort of picture of that guy from the external, right? For Trial, and I would want to mention Himani's name, who was the costume department head on Trial, a magnificent artist.
Right.
Me and Himani spent some time looking for that shirt. Once we found it, we both were like, this is it, right? And it made things clearer for me. So I took the costume back home. I wore it for a while. I would wear it at home and just walk around, you know, just to get acquainted with it. In Eeb, I wore the costume for a month when I was working with Mahinder, who is also in the film, who's a monkey repeller. I was training under him, so I would wear the costume, be in central Delhi, work around it. That gives you something. In Kuttey, the moment I think we got the shoe and the jeans, thing was sort of clear for me. And what that certain thing is hard for me to pinpoint. But there is something about it. And all these decisions are coming from the script. So you're doing backtracking.
Right.
And that really sort of the external just starts to, what I also mentioned in unpaused.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a completely different process. Also, one thing is that when you're learning a task, in unpaused I had to learn how to drive a rickshaw.
Right.
So you had to spend time with Rafiq Mia, who was teaching me how to drive the rickshaw. And you get introduced to a world. He would tell me Juhu kaise bana, Bandra कैसे बना, नॉट कि अच्छा यहाँ पे ये बिल्डिंग बना, ये हुआ, नहीं, पीपल्स हिस्ट्री, कौन कब आया, कैसे आया, कौन सा शैंटी कब बना, किसने क्या काम लिया, कैसे हुआ. This just opens up a world for you.
So, I mean, like you just spoke about unpaused, right? And where you're playing a rickshaw driver, you're playing in Ibaleo, you're a, what do you call it?
Monkey repeller.
Monkey
Repeller.
repeller.
Yeah.
Right. So you're playing a monkey repeller, and here in Kuttey you're playing a gangster, basically.
Yeah.
All roles that do require significant amount of acting when you think about probably the way you described yourself, right? As a like अंग्रेजी फिल्में देखी हैं, गाने सुने हैं from a private school or something like that, and
बिल्कुल.
So you've played very starkly, characters that like today, right now, someone tells me to play a college boy. It's a lot more different than playing a rickshaw driver, right? So is it something that you choose in a particular way? Do you get to choose in that sense? Like, what's your position?
I'm not at a stage right now that I can say no to 5 films and do 1/6 film, right? You have to pick and choose here and there. But I've been lucky that these roles came to me. But also there is an idea of curating it. Curating it in the fashion. I am really interested in the gig economy that exists around our country.
Okay.
The working class has virtually disappeared from our cinema.
Okay.
And when people are making it, I'm lucky that I'm being able to be a part of it, and that writing it sensitively. So it's not a role, oh, ये है rickshaw driver, he has a heart of gold. Because we middle classes think कि यार हमारे लिए कोई काम करता है, तो he has to have a heart of gold. हम तो उसको पैसा देते हैं. तो suddenly you see that within the range of whatever films I've been able to do, the filmmakers who've made that film, not just me, have afforded the working class some dignity. And when you take dignity away from people, they become very dangerous.
Right.
And that's what our setup, our kind of setup that we live in does to people who work. It takes away their dignity on a daily basis. And I'm not the voice of the working class. I don't think I can be.
Right.
But what I'm interested in is there.
So, when you're talking about the working class, you're also sometimes probably talking about people who probably have not had the best kind of guidance or resources also that want to get into the film business. That also becomes a part of that spectrum.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, to what extent do you think, how far has the independent movie scene, progressed up till now, and how much more progress do you wish to see?
I think I would like to believe that we, as we are living right now, are living in one of the most interesting and diverse times that Indian cinema has seen.
Okay.
And that has a lot to do with the various brave voices, both content-wise and grammar-wise, that have come up, and the world is noticing. We won the Cannes Best Documentary twice in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, the Cannes Best Short Film was also an Indian film. We won Sundance with All That Breathes. Eve was at Berlin. Ghode ko jalebi khilane le ja raha hu. One of the most experimental fiction films that everyone has watched. Ran in theaters for 3 weeks, which is unthinkable. People are being able to make films of a very varied nature. And for me as a performer, that's the most exciting thing.
Right.
That I did an Ebe which is grammar-wise a very different film. And then a film called Scavenger of Dreams, which soon come out with a very, very good Bengali director, Suman Ghosh, is another kind of verite cinema that traditionally big studios will not back.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But that is turning heads all over the world. In all the big fours.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's Toronto, Locarno, Venice, Berlin, Rotterdam. This year we had so many entries to Rotterdam from our country. And it's something to be proud of. And across the nation. So it is, I think, going in a great direction, but distribution as usual is a problem.
Right.
So we don't really, the problem is that a film like Ghode Ko Jalebi Khilane Le Ja Rahe Ho is still not streaming on any platform after running for 3 weeks in the theatres and getting all awards all across. So, you know, we really have to then start questioning that if the world is taking notice, why can't we for our own cinema?
Right. Yes, I mean, I guess even when you talk about something at the scale of the Oscars, you know, where you talk about the Elephant Whisperers, I don't think 5-7 years ago we'd imagine that, you know, someone from our, like even 5-7 years ago is not a very long time.
Yeah.
You know, we'd imagine that someone from our country will have, you know, will be able to, it requires a lot of courage to pull something like this off, right? Because what does not conventionally worked, or, you know, it's like, because the first thing whenever you're trying something, is you're asked, Acha, when has this worked before?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the whole independent scene growing is just changing that whole notion.
Yeah, and say for example, the docu feature that was nominated for Oscars, All That Breathes.
Right.
There is no parallel for it in India. And the makers of the film, the cinematographers, the directors, the associate directors, producers, these are friends I grew up with. Right? And then people who are making Ghode Ko, people who are making E Baleo, you know, it's very heartening that these are the people you run into each other almost on an everyday basis, have good healthy relationships, and they are there. Right? So it's also an ecosystem of, I believe so, that there is an ecosystem of honesty which still exists.
I mean, that's great to know. It's I guess it's reassuring for a lot of young actors such as yourself, you know, that
absolutely
not using, you know, the very, very conventional ways to get into cinema, but a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I did Eeb, and that was like what got me to certain places. So Eeb was the most unconventional at that point in time for India and Indian cinema.
I mean, I'm glad that, you know, you're getting the chance, and we're in that era where a performer like you is actually getting the chance to showcase, you know, whatever you've learned, because what you've learned is from different places, different wakes of life. We spoke about the fact that, you know, there were different age demographics when you talk about the people you worked with. So the kind of learnings that you would have, you know, been offered, or the way you observe, like, you know, the way you absorbed them, and at the same time you're also being able to be in an Eeb and also in a Kuttey, when you talk about the spectrum and the magnitude of that.
And for that, for a large part, I would like to mention Mr. Vishal Bhardwaj's name and Aasmaan Bhardwaj's name.
Right.
Because they saw Kuttey, they saw Eeb Allay, had a lengthy chat with all of us for no other reason but to have a chat about the film. And this is years ago when it just come out. And for the both of them to give me this, there is nothing but Eeb and their trust in what they saw.
Right.
So there is a lot of, like when we talk about this, that okay, I'm getting to do this, but there are certain people who are directly responsible for it. Prashant Nair is directly responsible for giving me all the trust in this world to do whatever not whatever I want to do, but like to go and fly with the role. Right. And sometimes there is a lot of opposition from certain people in certain places. They're like, ye kaun hai, isko kyun lena hai? Until unless there are not people like Mr. Vishal Bhardwaj or Prashant Nair,
Right.
You know, people like us wouldn't get work.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's fair enough. I mean, I guess recognizing talent is also very important when you put it next to having talent, you know.
Yeah.
So
I just hope I justify what they see in me.
Up till now, definitely. I mean, whatever I've seen, I've also been all praises to Aasmaan about whatever I've seen of you. So it's been very great. And yeah, he is in the film because he's a great actor, not because he has the same surname as the directors.
Oh yeah.
So let's mention that. Let's mention
about Bhardwaj. Yeah, people are like, oh, are you related to Mr. Bhardwaj? I said, yeah, via soul, sure. Didn't grow up in the household.
There's no nepotism going on.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, you've like we mentioned, worked with great actors, great directors. The way, I mean, you know, you've definitely honored them on our interview out here.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, established actors and the upcoming one of the best directors who are definitely only going to grow and make great films.
Absolutely.
So yeah, all expecting great things from Aasmaan.
Yeah.
As we always have, like, you know, growing up with him also, we've always expected great things and he's always delivered.
Yeah.
So now for you, what do you think is next? Where do you see yourself taking your career? I mean, you've done these kind of, you know, very intense, out of pocket kind of roles. What do you see yourself doing now?
I'm at the mercy of the people I like. Right. As simple as that. And they seem to like me back right now.
Right.
So there's some interesting stuff which will come out, which I will shoot this year.
Okay.
But I'm not at the liberty to talk about it. But it is definitely like trial. It is definitely something that has not been seen quite often on Indian OTT. Right? It's OTT stuff. And there are two very, very, very beautiful independent films which will come out, which will start the festival run. And hopefully a larger audience. That's what we keep hoping. I do a lot of independent work.
Right.
So I hope those two films are seen by people. They're important films. One is called Scavenger of Dreams by Suman Ghosh, National Award winner, a very renowned Bengali director, and he made Aadhaar in Hindi. It's the story of a garbage collector. It's looking at garbage collection, mechanization, what it does to people's lives, and has been shot beautifully, has been edited beautifully. The background score is mind-blowing. So that should come out. And then there is a very, very experimental but palatable film called We Don't Have Photos Together by another National Award winner called Ramana Dumpala, which is in the mix. So these films should come out, and I'll use this platform to just say that, you know, keep looking for it, because if you don't watch independent cinema, then maybe we don't have the right to complain that we don't make good cinema. We do make very good cinema, but sometimes as audiences, you have to go to them, because distribution channels are not that easy. Yeah. Thank you.
So, I mean, yeah, definitely, totally concur with what you said.
Yeah.
And independent work has given us Elephant Whisperers.
Yeah.
Independent, which got us an Oscar.
Yeah.
Independent work has gotten us Shardul Bhardwaj. And he's only going to be on the rise. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks a lot, man.
It was a great chat with you. I'm so glad we got to do this. And
thank you.
I'm looking forward to a lot more interviews with you.
Yes,
a lot more films.
Yes.
Things are only going to get bigger, and our conversations are only going to get better.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being
here. Thank you.